All right, guys, if you found a sample in your sample library and you just have no idea how to add your own music over the sample to really make it into your production, this video is for you. I'm going to give you a 4-step process to write over any sample. So it comes down to my original system, and the system comes down to this. It comes down to what's called a top line melody. This is your memorable parts of the melody, usually the highest frequencies of a sound. You have the harmony section. This is your chords or your glue to the track. You have the contrast section. This is your usually the bass or the counter melody, and you have the rhythm. Let's take a sample from my new kit called Blueprint at busyworksbeats.com/blueprint. It's actually a production cheat code, not a suite. We're going to drag this in. So here's one of our neo soul samples. So it has the information on the sample. But the first thing you need to identify with any sample is the actual BPM. Not every old song, however, is perfectly timed to a BPM. So you may struggle depending on the genre and age of the song. The next thing you need to do, which I've labeled on the actual file here, is figure out the key of the song. So let's say I didn't label all my samples for you guys. What I'll do is I'll open up a plugin called Scalar. And what we're going to do in Scalar is play the notes that we hear over the sample. So I hear this note. Okay, so let's play those. Okay, so it tells me the key or the scale in this case is A minor natural. Okay, so in this sample specifically, it's the D Dorian mode. You don't need to know what that means, but the starting chord is D minor. So we've labeled it with the actual starting chord, because if I told you guys this was A minor, you might produce in the key of A minor and you're starting at A and it may confuse you. So this is the tool I use called Scalar 2. This is really good for figuring out the key of something when you don't have it labeled on a sample. So that's the first thing you need to identify really is the BPM and the key or the scale, key and scale. Once you have that information, now we can use this information to apply it to the sample. So again, what we can do in FL Studio is unique. So this sample has multiple instruments. What we're going to do is click in the top left here and extract stems from the sample. And we're going to say all. I don't think this has drums on it. So this may take some time depending on your machine. This shouldn't take long because I have a high powered machine. So I'll just kind of let it go. Basically, we're separating the sample into different pieces, and it may lower the quality, but this will allow us to rearrange the sample. So we have here the bass and the instruments track and what they think is a vocal, which I'm curious what they think is a vocal. So part of the bass they thought was a vocal, which it's not. Let's see what this is. Or part of the chords, because I have like a talking chord. So that's more of a flaw, so we're going to mute that track. Okay, so if we're in FL Studio, we're going to make sure all these have what's called stretch mode on. To do this, go to Tools, Macros, switch all audio clips to stretch mode. Basically, what this means is when I change the BPM, it won't, like the audio won't move around. Very important that we do that. Okay, so now we have everything separated. We can get rid of the vocal and right click, get rid of the drums because there are none. And now we're left with the bass and the instruments track. So let's categorize this into these 4 layers. What do we have so far? We have a harmony. And then we have a bass, which is a contrast layer. Okay, so now we can add a rhythm and a top line to make this sound more full, or like our idea. So let's go in, we could add drums, or we could add just really anything. Let's open up Keyscape, for example. Let's actually use one of my plugins. Let's go to busyworksbeats.com/Hercules. Here's my Hercules plugin. Let me find the folder here. All right, so I forgot to move my stuff to my other hard drive. So here are my sounds here. Let's open up the Hercules sounds. Okay, so now we have it open. We get X out of here, code back, and let's go to chord library, and let's look for sounds that we could add over top of the track. Because here we can give it our own vibe. So now we know we're in A natural minor. Okay, so now we can mess around with different ideas. Let's change the pitch range here to 2. So let's take this kind of like this, I'll say a lovey vibe, and let's make it into more like a dark vibe by adding our own top line and then messing with the rhythm here. Let's record some ideas. Okay, so let's just work with this, and I'm going to run it through a bunch of effects. Let's run Hercules. Let's hit Control L, send it to the mixer. One of my favorite companies that makes free plugins is called Kilohertz. They make really good plugins. I'm looking for a plugin called the Pitch Shifter, and we're going to turn it off correlation mode and mess with the jitter. This creates a really drone-like sound. And what we can do with the sample is simply just use a low pass filter. Let's hit Control L, send the sample to the mixer. Let's add a low pass filter so we can add our own high frequencies. So now we're creating like a top line drone type sound. Let's pull it up an octave. I'm gonna add a couple more plugins here, like some Spring Reverb. Where is it at? Arturia's Reverb. Spring Reverb. This is really good. And then let's mess with some halftime. Blend this in. Create 2 layers here. So with halftime, we're basically creating another contrast layer. Let's route the bass to the mixer. Hit Control L. And let's mess with the rhythm. Let's add Kickstarter. So now we have a little more rhythm. Let's see what we can do with this actual chord. Let's just mess with it in gross beat. So I'm going to just start from scratch. Let's add like a pitch bending effect here. We're going to right click. We could also stutter this by using these little squares. And then we're going to right click, make a linear curve, a single curve to add the octave jump. So now it's like a different. So now we have a whole different groove. Now we can fit our sound over top. Let's go back to Hercules. Let's figure out a sound. Go over top. This sounds a little more airy. Let's add a faster rhythm to this. Okay, so what we could do is from this point, we could take out the bass, add our own bass. So let's kind of give it a different vibe. Let's say we wanted to trapify this all the way. Let's go to the second half of this loop. Or let's just take out the bass in general. And then we're going to add our own contrast layer. So in the blueprint, I give you guys some presets for FL Studio, and Toxic Biohazard has some of the best ones here. So let's open up some of these sounds here. Because that one's a little bit brighter. Also, the pads have really good low. So let's just completely transform this sound here. So I'm just gonna do stuff, and I just want you guys to just watch, because I'm gonna be doing a lot of sound design stuff, which is me just really just mentally thinking of stuff. But Serum 2, people don't realize this is also an effects plugin we could use to manipulate different movements. We just have to turn the noise on and turn on the, where's it at? The note latch. And now basically the sound will be going through Serum. And we could add different things like a filter. We can give it movement. So let's do that. All right, so now let's blend all this stuff together. So I'm gonna move a little bit quicker here, because now we have that contrast layer open. We can start making our own bass. All right, so now we have that over top. So now we have a whole different vibe going. Let's turn this sound down. It's a very big sound. Now we have this like ethereal sound. Okay, so let's add some rhythmic synths. Let's add a plugin called Hypnos. This is my other plugin at busyworksbeats.com/Hercules. Let's add, let me see what we have here. Let's do maybe some rhythmic guitar stuff. And because we have it tempo locked, we can start upping the BPM. Now we have a rhythm to our beat, and this is also can serve as the top line. So let's start messing with effects and different sound. Now we just got to make sure the rhythms match. See how we're adding our own vibe to this whole sample? It's because we understand those four components. Let's add a Hercules bass. Just add a bass that fits. Now we got our own bop, all from a neo soul sample. So just to remind you guys where we started, here's the original sample. All right, so here's how we can flip it into our own thing. See how the synth serves as the movement? We don't even need the hi-hats. And you guys see how complicated of an arrangement you guys can create. And this is a very simple system. Once you understand the system, you'll stop really overproducing. Now we get a whole refreshing R&B trap vibe, just like that. All right, so let's add some limiting. All right, so that was just a little freestyle beat, but those are the 4 layers or the 4 components that you can use to separate your sample and then add your own composition over top. If you guys want to learn more about the blueprint, go to busyworksbeats.com/blueprint. Peace out, guys.